Hey guys, I thought I'd do a video this week about some of the diet mistakes that I've made over my lifetime. Now, if you have watched any of my videos, you'll know that I talk about nutrition quite a lot. So I'll put at the end screen of this video what I think you should be focusing on to get the best out of your training. So I've done a video on that, and that'll be on one of the end screens. Anyway, so what I want to talk about this week is the basics of a really good nutritional program. Now, for most people, when they talk about diet, there's still this really strange understanding that carbohydrates are bad for us. People are talking about hormones being the most important thing. So it's a minefield, and I totally get it. You know, I was just like most people watching this when they look at diets, is there's so much information out there that when I first started my fitness coaching career years ago, so when I was about 25, I didn't really study nutrition. Yes, you learn it as part of your courses that you do, but it's all a bit basic. And I think I followed the crowd a little bit to start off. In fact, I know I followed the crowd to start off with a little bit. And it wasn't until I hit around about 30 and I was looking at what I was doing with my athletes and clients and thinking, this isn't right, you know, this doesn't work well. The knowledge that I have on nutrition needs to be better. So I started studying it. And even then, some of the things that I was studying with nutrition, I still thought, you know, this it doesn't feel right. Some of the things that I'm learning feels like it's all very one-sided, and I just needed to learn more. So then I started studying it with Mac Nutrition Uni, and that completely changed the way that I looked at nutrition for the better. And here's why. Now I'm having a coffee because I'm literally, after I've done this video, I'm going to go and jump on the turbo and do a sweet spot session. So here's why. That Mac Nutrition helped me really take a step back and look at the bigger picture. For the most part, when people talk about nutrition, they talk I'm trying to lose weight and be healthier, etc. There's a lot of nonsense out there. So here's a good example. Sugar is toxic. Carbohydrates raise insulin levels, and therefore you can't lose body fat. You can only absorb 20 grams of protein per sitting. Thing is, none of that is true. It's all total nonsense. So what I thought I'd do today is sit down with you, have a coffee, and talk to you about some of the base practices that I think we all need to focus on for health and for our performance. And then, you know, I can chat to you about how flexible you can be off the back of that and why you should. I've taken some notes so I don't go off track, but what I wanted to chat about is, let's start off with diets and which diet is the most effective. Because when you look at the body of evidence of diets themselves, every study will turn around and say that a diet that is calorie restricted, regardless of whether you're high fat, high carbohydrate, will help you lose weight. It doesn't matter which diet you choose, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you can lose weight. And that's something that we really need to hold dear, remind ourselves on a regular basis when people are talking crazy talk about insulin and hormones and things like that, because actually the number one most important factor is calorie deficit. Now I'll wrap up at the end of this video with what my thoughts and feelings are with working with my athletes and what's really effective to making sure that they stick with eating in a way that's going to help them lose weight, stay effective on their bike, and just kind of enjoy their food, which is, let's face it, really important. But let's talk about what I think is the most important thing that we should be eating on a day-to-day level to make sure that we're getting adequate recovery, plenty of energy to train, and also making sure that we're eating the right foods to be as healthful as possible. Let's talk about protein, because look, protein's kind of important for all of us to make sure that we're getting adequate recovery. And yes, I talk about this a lot as an older cyclist, because as we get older, our muscles become more resistant to protein. So we need to have that as a focus in our diet. So I recommend most of my cyclists, when they're training hard, is they eat between 1.8 grams of protein per kg of body weight up to 2 grams of protein per kg of body weight. Now, look, when you do the maths, yes, you'll probably suddenly realize that you're nowhere near that. But here's the thing, when you eat that amount of quality protein on a day-to-day basis, you're gonna start to recover better. And that means over time, your training's just gonna be better. So it is an important aspect to make sure that you are eating enough protein to support your training and recovery. Carbohydrates. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but we need a certain amount of carbohydrates to make sure that our training is effective. Plus also carbohydrates can be quite helpful, especially if we're eating whole food carbohydrates, because they have a certain amount of vitamins, minerals, prebiotic fiber and probiotic fiber for health. The set standard, or the minimal amount of carbohydrates we need when we're training hard, and this is the important bit when we're training hard, is 1.2 grams per kg of body weight. Now that is the minimal amount of carbohydrates, which means if you're an advocate of ketogenic diets, for instance, that's over that threshold of what you want to be focusing on. And a lot of people will disagree with me on this factor, but here's the thing. When you look at the evidence behind it, if you want to have good energy in your training, you need to have that minimal amount of carbohydrates in your diet. But here's my understanding of what I do with my cyclists that I coach, is that a higher carbohydrate diet just allows them to have way more energy and a bit more flexibility with your food. Now that leads me into something that I'll talk about later on, but let's talk about fat. Let's talk about fat because we need fat for our hormonal function, for our immune function, and also it's really important for our nerves to function properly too. So fat's a really important macronutrient for us to eat, and we need between 0.5 grams per kg of body weight right up to 1.2 grams per kg of body weight, with 0.5 grams per kg of body weight being the minimal amount of fat that we need to be eating to stay healthy. This is really important for us to understand. Now, look, why am I giving all these grammages and thinking of along these lines? Because when you understand that those are your baselines to work off, and this is what I'm trying to get across, is when you understand this from an evidence-based practice, it means that from that point, as long as you're getting in the right proteins, carbohydrates, and fats into your diet, you have the flexibility to eat whatever you want, with the understanding that calories are the most important thing to focus on to help you lose body fat, to help you stay within your desired body fat ranges and your weight ranges. It's just having that understanding. And this is the thing that I try and get across to all the cyclists that I coach. Understand what your baselines are and make sure you're hitting those on a day-to-day level. And then, look, have some freedom with your food. Don't demonize things, because this is the issue with the food and the fitness industry, to compel you into buying their, what's the best way to say this? Utter load of garbage. That's probably the best way to say it. And this is the thing. So I see it all the time. People selling dumb programs, dumb nutritional ideas, and also crazy notions of what you should and shouldn't eat. The one thing that I think when you look at the studies is having a diet that is within the calorie ranges and is flexible, so that the person on that diet sticks to it and can maintain it through life. They're gonna be way more likely to stick to it than they ever will do on a diet that is super restrictive. And let's face it, and I say this to everybody I work with, no one likes that person that goes to dinner and says, I can't eat this and I can't eat that, and that's bad for you, and I'm not gonna touch it. It's just, it doesn't work. It never has done. The thing is, what I'm talking about doesn't sell lots of books. It doesn't make people attracted to it. They want to know this one thing. So here's the one thing that everybody needs to understand. Having flexibility in your diet, being really conscious that you're eating enough protein, carbohydrate, and fat for health, and then just relax around food. So important, because look, let's face it, we all like eating food. Now look, if you like this video and you think this has helped, please look, hit subscribe, tap the bell to stay in touch, and do me a favor, share this with your friends. And look, at the end of this video, there's an end screen, and I'll put up some different videos that I've talked about on how to fuel your training. Thanks for watching.